of this event. Been doing a common front, between government entities in South Africa, especially the provincial government agency, is key to make sure that we achieve our goals, because as agency on its own, it's not always easy, to get this kind of program to work. So we really appreciate the partnership, the collaboration. We've done this a few times, Nigeria, Cameroon, Ghana, and so on. And so we do appreciate, the partnership. So we have, as I mentioned, companies from the Western Cape Province and from the Tshwane region that are led by Tila. They're going to speak to you a short while about, the agency. So in terms of the program today, we're hoping to make it swift, because we know how tiring it can be to have a very long program that drags. So we are hoping that the program is concise enough, to help keep your energy, because we still want people to sit after the formal part of the session to engage into B2B meetings, because that's why we're really here. And the program is going to end with obviously some refreshment later on. But after my introductory remarks, we will have the Mr. Ernest Kgopa from the South African High Commission, the Deputy High Commissioner, to give us, the remarks by the High Commission. They are the official representation of South Africa in the country, so it's obviously fair that they do the opening remarks. We are hoping to have Standard Bank, which is also one of the partners for this event, to follow with a presentation, but I'm not sure if they're here. If not, we will go directly to our next presenter. That's going to be Mrs. Mwandi, who is here, who is going to speak about IP considerations in Kenya, which is something that concerns everybody, not just the South Africans, but also obviously the Kenyans. And then after that, we will have the mission organizers, which is Westgrow and TIDA, to talk about the agency, the programs, and the reason why we're here. So we'll then be followed by the presentations of the South African companies that are here. They will talk to you about why they are here and what they are looking for, because that's really the reason why we bring this delegation, to network, for their members to work, to network and interact and form partnerships. So that's really the reason why we insist on B2Bs, before the program and after the program, as you can see. So without being too long, I would like to invite Mr. Kgopa to please come and do the introductory remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gano, Program Director, Head of International Trade and Development, Westgrow, the delegation from the Tshwane Economic Development Agency, TIDA, where I'm from also, Tshwane. Captains of industry, both South Africa and Kenya, fellow participants, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, and let me also recognize Ms. Christie, KCCI. Yeah. Good afternoon. Sanbonani, goedemiddag. Habari ya mchana in Swahili. Dumelang. Program Director, let me begin by expressing my honor and gratitude to Westgrow and to TIDA as well, the organizers of this trade mission to Kenya, and to all the participants, of course, for availing themselves for this important occasion. I am indeed humbled to have been invited to participate in this important networking forum this afternoon. Normally, during such important gatherings, I will be sitting at the back, as I did even today, because I'm used to my late High Commissioner being the one to take the podium. His Excellency Mahlangu, as he delivers his remarks, he did so even with the West Grove and Cape Wilderness District Municipality trade mission last year. So it is therefore with deep sense of sorrow that I have to inform you that His Excellency High Commissioner M.J. Mahlangu passed away on the 24th of August this year and was buried on the 6th of September. May his soul rest in eternal peace. He, however, used to say to us as the mission that work must go on. Whether I'm here or not, work must continue. It is therefore in remaining true to his words that we are here today to continue with his legacy of making sure that the High Commission supports all efforts to bring South Africa and Kenya closer and closer together, be it bilateral political relations, tourism or economic relations. So, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a general observation that African countries do not trade much with each other. We have been unable to fully harness the synergies and complementaries of our economies, and to take full advantage of the economies of scale and other benefits, such as income and employment generation, that greater market integration would have provided. Trade has therefore remained very low as compared to other regions of the world. Africa does the bulk of its trade with the outside world, and the exports are heavily concentrated on primary commodities. The continent has been particularly vulnerable to external macroeconomic shocks and protectionist trade policies. This is evident from the recurrent global economic financial crisis, which, although not of our own making, has had adverse impact on the continent's economic performance. Thus, a major lesson to be drawn from these systematic shocks in the global economy is the need for Africa to promote intra-regional trade. The low levels of intra-regional trade and investment in Africa has adverse implications and impact on economic growth and development. It has been observed that intra-African trade stands at around 13 to 15% compared to between 30 and 60% intra-regional trade that has been achieved by other regions of the world. Your Europe, North America, and the ASEAN in Asia. Distinguished participants, it is a further observation that even if allowance is made for Africa's unrecorded informal cross-border trade, the total level of intra-African trade is not likely to be more than 20%, which is still lower than that of other major regions of the world. And at around 3%, the share of Africa in global trade is insignificant. We therefore need to make concerted efforts to see through the full implementation of measures to increase intra-African trade levels to the globally competitive as well. Therefore, in response to this, the African Union conceptualized the African Continental Free Trade Area, which has been on full speed from the time it was conceptualized as a flagship project of the AU's Agenda 2063, conceptualized in 2012, of course, when a resolution was adopted by the AU to start the negotiations for a continent-wide free trade agreement. and it took only 7 years for the agreement to come into force in 2019. And on our last check, out of the 54 African countries, 48 have already ratified by February this year. However, more work needs to be done on the full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Distinguished participants, it is therefore incumbent upon member states, along with their respective industries, to drive the full implementation of the AFCFTA. We have therefore witnessed that in 2022, Kenya and Ghana started trading under the AFCFTA, and in 2024, South Africa and Kenya also began their trading under AFCFTA. In June this year, Namibia also joined the party. So how do we get to the full implementation of this continent-wide free trade area? Well, one of the efforts is trade missions such as this one, to market and display what each of our economies have to offer to one another towards growth, to establish partnerships that enable us to trade and invest across borders in a whole range of sectors, be it agriculture, manufacturing, or services. Those are the business transactions that advances the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, as the leading economies of their respective sub-regions, Kenya and South Africa have been at the forefront of driving their bilateral agreements, their bilateral trade, as well as bringing into force the AFCFTA and the COMESA tripartite free trade agreement. The two countries have been strategic to each other in bringing their respective regional economic communities closer together, economically and politically. This proximity is indeed the necessary ingredient of the AFCFTA and the tripartite free trade agreement. It is my understanding that next month, COMESA will hold its 24th Summit of Heads of State and Government in Nairobi on the 9th of October, which will be preceded by a business forum. I believe further details are available on the COMESA website if colleagues are interested. Kenya is currently South Africa's biggest trading partner outside of the SADC region, and South Africa remains one of the 5 biggest investors in Kenya, along with the US, the UK, France, and Mauritius. South Africa's investment in Kenya runs across a number of sectors and creating an estimated more than 5,000 direct jobs. It remains important for South Africa to remain one of the biggest investors and trade partner to Kenya, to really serve as an example of intra-African trade and investment. As the seminar focuses on the agro-business, manufacturing and services, it should be noted that the batteries, as the batteries have been changed, it should be noted therefore that these are the sectors of much focus in Kenya as well. Therefore, forging partnerships, providing, improving bilateral trade and investment in these sectors is therefore not misplaced, as there are opportunities for trade and investment in Kenya. Indeed, the sectors which this important seminar is focused on, agriculture, services, and manufacturing, count among the top economic drivers in the Kenyan economy. The focus of Kenya's Vision 2030 to try and transform the economy into an industrialized, middle-income economy by the year 2030 encompasses trade and investment in key sectors of the economy. And therefore, this seminar speaks to that vision. In fact, if you were to engage Can Invest and other stakeholders, you will get more informed views of Kenya's economic vision. Mr. Kgopa, our program director, in closing, I'm certain that some of the concepts I have outlined are going to be unpacked properly, more accurately, through the technical expertise of the participants in this room in the duration of the program, to give us a more informed view. And we need to take in strengthening intra-African trade, investment, and regional economic integration. I therefore wish this important seminar every success and also welcome you to Nairobi, Kenya. Karibuni, asante sana, kia leboha. Bye.